Har du noen gang lurt på hvordan du kan spille samme spill om og om igjen? Du lurer kanskje på hva som holder deg engasjert. Nå kan du få et innblikk i psykologien bak spilldesign og lære litt om spillbalanse. Ta vel imot Simon McCallum.
This afternoon, the first talk I'm talking about is going to be balance. Later I'm talking about augmented reality. Now, as gamers, you guys are worried about balance. You worry about games being fair, being able to be played regardless of how you start the game. Now, we kind of think of two types of game balance. Right? Game balance comes in the multiplayer variety, where you create a game that when you pit 2 players against each other, or 4 players against each other, a massively multiplayer game. You don't want one person to have the advantage just because they happen to get the one unique item. So in multiplayer games, you're doing balancing to try and create fairness across the players. In single player games, you're trying to create balance in difficulty. Right, now I'm mostly going to be talking about multiplayer balance in this talk. Single player balance and balancing difficulty is another whole topic about flow and about your difficulty state and how you keep the player engaged. If you don't engage the player, if you don't keep the difficulty moving forward, then the game becomes too easy too quickly. And if the game's too hard too quickly, the players will move away as well. So balance is important both for single player games and multiplayer games. Now, there are 2 parts to the multiplayer strategy balance. One is providing choices for the players, and the other is creating an initial starting state that works. So we're going to look at choice. Now, balance allows you to have choice in a game. If you are unbalanced, you have no choice. If there's always the right answer to a problem, then you're not choosing which one to do, you're just doing the right answer every time. So balance creates choice. Choice changes winning into reward. If I came out here and just gave a random person 1,000,000 points, David, you get 1,000,000 points. Yay, David got 1,000,000 points. And you won. Doesn't really mean anything. He didn't do anything to win. Right? He made no choices that resulted in his victory. So it's a hollow victory. There's no meaning to it. And so if you make choices, if what you do makes your victory happen, then you get positive reward for that. That makes you feel good. So having choice is what turns winning into an internal reward. And balance allows you to have those choices. So what breaks up this balance, choice, winning, reward system? Well, dominant strategies. Dominant strategies destroy the link between balance and choice, because a dominant strategy says, there's no choice here. There's no balance, so there is no choice. I'm going to always use the BFG, right? I'm going to always use whatever weapon does the most damage, right? So long if there is one weapon that's the right weapon to use, that's what you do. And a game becomes completely unbalanced. The early StarCraft, the Zergling rushes and dominant strategies, tank rushes. These dominant strategies destroy the choice of the player because it's no longer about choosing what to do. It's about just doing what you know is the best option. Right? You've worked out this is what you do, so you just sit there and mechanically grind to get to that point where you make that action. Randomness also destroys the link between choice and whether you win or not. Right? Now actually, in some sports, particularly in soccer, they've done an analysis and found that soccer is the most random professional sport. Right? Soccer has the most likelihood of a good team being beaten by somebody who doesn't play very often, right? Low-ranked teams can get to the World Cup, like New Zealand is going to the World Cup this year and Norway isn't, right? That's just crazy, right? We're ranked like 130 and you guys are ranked in like 35. But soccer has that randomness between your actions and the results. If you put that into a game, you decrease the reward for the player because it's no longer what they do that means they win. It's just you sit around waiting long enough and eventually something random will happen and you'll win. Right? That's not good reward. When we look at balance, we talk about puzzles and choice. Now, I've been talking about choice and saying choice is what results in an interesting connection between winning and reward for yourself. Puzzles and choice are two different things. Often in games, they're presented as being the same thing. Right? They're presented as choose between A and B. Right? Not really much of a choice here. Pick the big pile of money or the small pile of money. That's not a choice, that's a puzzle. Puzzles have a right answer. Right? If you're creating a puzzle-based game, you're creating a game that has a right answer, that has the right moves. So you're not worried about choice, because the player's not making choices, they're just trying to hunt down the best combination. If I give you two options, right, is this choice for, you have a choice for dinner, right? These are your choices. I've heard of a strategy for negotiating. You do it my way now, or you do it my way later. The choice is yours. That's not a choice, right? Because you're still going to do it my way. This linked to a bunch of concepts around balance in games. How deep they are, how fair they are, and how symmetric they are. Now, a deep game versus a shallow game. A deep game engages you for a long time. And balance is part of that. If you don't have a balanced game, after a while, the players all work out what the dominant strategy is, and they just do that. And it's no longer deep, it's no longer interesting, there's no choices being made. So we talk about depth in games as to how long the game can be played and still have valid choices. A game is fair. Now, fair is a tricky concept because whenever you guys lose, you'll say, that was unfair. Right? You don't often, people don't usually go, oh, I lost because I'm crap. Right? It's usually unfair. Right? The reason you fail at maths at school is because they're unfair. The reason that I lost at Counter-Strike is the game was unfair. He had a better computer. He had less lag. He had whatever else was going on. It was unfair. Game designers try and create fair games generally. We're not here to make games that are inherently unfair. I don't write in code that says, if player name Simon McCallum, damage +5, right? That's not what you do. Right? You actually make games that are fair. And they're fair at the beginning of the game. All the players should have the same likelihood of winning based on their skill level. If I'm highly skilled, I should win. If I have no skill, I should lose. Right? This is how it should work. Now, one way of doing that is with symmetry. And you see this in a lot of games. You see a lot of games use symmetry to try and create this fairness and to try and create depth. Now, in a lot of first-person shooters, you have the same weapons, the same health, you can pick up the same armor, everything's symmetric. In chess, it's almost symmetric. Right? There's one problem in chess that creates asymmetry, and that's the starting move. Right? The fact that somebody moves first creates asymmetry, and that's a problem. Because as soon as you get asymmetry, you have to start working on game balance. Now, other games embrace asymmetry. Rather than trying to always defeat asymmetry and trying to make the game always symmetric, you embrace asymmetry and you try and work out how you can balance the complex interactions. And this is why StarCraft is so popular and is like massive in Korea, because over the years, and it has taken years, they've balanced the choices. They've balanced the different options so that your gameplay can vary and your strategies can vary, but you've still got a chance of winning. There's not a single dominant strategy in StarCraft. In fighting games, Street Fighter games and Mortal Kombat, they have embraced asymmetry. The different characters you choose have different attacks. It's not that we all have exactly the same damage for exactly the same punch for exactly the same special move. So they've embraced this asymmetry. Of course, that creates complexity. And that's one of the problems for game developers. And that's why you guys get really angry at World of Warcraft or Anarchy Online or Ultima Online, whatever game you've been playing where they've come in and they've nerfed your favorite character class. They've found complexity which they had to balance. And complexity is tricky. The game in the bottom corner here, which is an asymmetric game, is Hnuftafl. So it's the Viking version of chess. And it's an asymmetric game. There is one king, and he's trying to escape from the center. And he's trying to get to one of the corners. So you have an asymmetric game. Now, this is also inherently unbalanced, right? It's asymmetric. And there are various ways to try and adjust. You change the number of pieces you have, you change the initial layout, you change how far pieces can move. And over centuries for board games, you get them balanced. And it takes thousands and thousands of play sessions to try and work this out. Now, the classic example of asymmetric balancing is rock, paper, scissors. Now, who's never heard of rock, paper, scissors? Sweet, okay, that's good. Standard rock, paper, scissors seems fairly random, right? Because your strategic choices don't seem to have much of an impact, right? You can't know what the other guy's going to throw, so you just throw whatever, paper or scissors or rock. But the point in this is that it creates symmetric relationships, right? There are symmetries in this relationship that balance this system. The system of asymmetry is balanced because each person wins against one and loses against one. And the player's ability is in the ability to read your opponent, right? It's like Texas Hold'em. Texas Hold'em as a poker game has no player skill, right? There's no skill in choosing cards because you don't choose cards. Texas Hold'em, the cards get put down on the table and you've got your two and that's it. Right? You don't choose any actions. The only thing you do is bet. And the skill is in knowing the other guy, working out why they're betting, how they're betting, and when you can bluff them. And that's what you do in rock, paper, scissors. So, first of all, I'll get you to play 2 rounds, just very quickly. Pick someone next to you, right? Pick a person next to you and play a couple of rounds of rock, paper, scissors. All right? Okay, so we got some going, rock, paper, scissors. Yeah, now, I spent one time for about 10 minutes with my brother, and we were matching the whole time. It was really irritating. Okay, so we've played a few rock, paper, scissors. So you've now met this person, you've beaten them or lost to them in rock, paper, scissors. Do you feel bad that you lost in rock, paper, scissors? Does this destroy your ego that you're now this inferior person? Hopefully not, okay? However, we can make some subtle rule changes and it starts to increase the engagement in the game, right? And this simple mechanic can then be advanced. First of all, you're going to play the game again, but now, best of 3, right? You've got to get to 3 points. But paper is +1. So if you win with paper, you get 2 points. You win with anything else, you get 1 point. Okay, so try that again. Try rock, paper, scissors with paper +1. Okay. Lots of arms waving up and down. Okay, now that created a different way of thinking about the game. So who won with paper? Right, so and did you win did you get to 3 points first? Who got 3 points first with paper? Yep, a couple through here. But you'll see that people threw scissors a lot more often because paper had this advantage that they knew, paper's +2, I can use scissors to defeat that. So there's still balance in this system. Even though I've altered one of the mechanics, because of this circular symmetry, I've balanced that asymmetric system. And because both players have the same options to throw, they can do that more easily. Now, a slightly trickier one. Name your power. Right? This is a bit like going into an RPG fight now. Right? You're going in and you're going to be rock this round. So before you throw, you go, okay, I'm rock. And the other person says what they are, and then you go, And the trick is, are you going to throw what you call? Are you going to throw what you power up? Okay, so try that. Name your power up. You've got to name the power up. Say paper or rock before you throw. Okay. So now what this is saying is that you've started to see strategies emerging where people are trying to read what you intend to do. This is the neat thing about playing multiplayer games where you have a balanced system, is that I know that I can make choices that will defeat your decision. And it doesn't matter the particular numbers we use here. If I gave one of you, let's say, all the people wearing black get +5 on every skill. That's not balanced, right? That's just unfair because then all the people wearing black win all the time. So there are some things you can do which aren't balanced, but changing it symmetrically for both players keeps balance. Now, I've done a rock, paper, scissors RPG. We're not going to do that now. We don't have time. But the idea here is that after you win each round, you get to power up one of your attacks. So over time, you develop a character. Your character can be the rock guy, right? And so I just always power rock. This is kind of how role-playing games work. They create systems of balance, and then you power up different abilities. And we make them balanced by having these relationships, by looking at what relationships are going on. And then, of course, you can add more. The rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. And the additional ones are paper disproves Spock. Spock vaporizes rock. So there are a few other, like lizard poisons Spock. So there are a few more connections here. But again, you can play the game, create more options, but still have them balanced. And it's about this having counters to moves. When you're playing rock, paper, scissors, the trick in a balanced game is to understand your opponent. Right? Because you know that the rule system has been balanced. You know that the rules have been made so that it's balanced. One of the things people are really awful at is understanding randomness. You guys suck at being random. Parrots do better at being random than humans. If you see somebody throwing rock, paper, scissors, and they throw paper, paper, unlikely to throw paper a third time because we think they're in a row is no longer random. Right? We don't understand that randomness is just a thing that's going to happen, not something about what has happened. So when you're watching your opponent, if they throw 2 of the same item, they're probably not going to throw that one again. So you play something that will defeat the other things they can throw. So if they've been throwing paper, they're going to throw rock or scissors, so you throw rock, right? Because you know rock's going to beat the scissors and it's going to tie with rock. So you see 2 papers, you throw a rock. If you lose, one of the things they've found by analyzing people's behavior is that you throw the thing that would have beaten what you lost to. So if you threw paper and the other guy threw scissors, the loser is more likely to throw rock on the next round. Right? Because their brain says, oh, I lost the scissors. I'll throw something that beats that. As if there's some relationship between what you've just previously thrown and what you're about to throw. And this is one of the tricky things, is breaking natural habits. And when you're playing a balanced game, that's one of the things you have to do. There's also some interesting power of suggestion things you can do. You can manipulate the other player. You can talk about what you're doing. You can try and manipulate the situation. So understanding humans is a big part of understanding game balance and how to defeat it. As a game designer and a game developer, we look at trying to create balance. One way is the rock, paper, scissors. Another way is to look at balancing cost with effect. When we create a weapon, we say, how much does it cost to get this weapon? And by cost, we mean time, or we mean resources, or we mean other choices, right? So if you're going to choose to do something and you're going to take a long time to get there, then it's better be a good reward. If you don't do this, you end up with cheap weapons being the most effective weapon in the game, or people spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to get something which has no value, right? And they get disappointed. So there's a kind of inherent contract between the developer and the player that I say, if you work hard, I will reward you. And I'll create a balanced game so that when you work hard and you become better at the game, you are more likely to win. Right? This is what the whole balance thing is about. Now, balance requires lots of spreadsheets. There's unfortunately lots of math. Now, math at school has been taught fairly badly in most of the world, and you don't like maths anymore. But actually, it's really useful. The graph that you can see there is actually the Street Fighter tiers of players. Right? They analyze all of the competition matches in Street Fighter and work out who beats who and how often you win, and you can create ranks of characters. Because it's asymmetric, you need to rank them. And you can see the slight colors here are the different bands of ranking. Yes, Ragat is at the top there. He's by himself. He's an unbalanced player. He's overpowered. And we know he's overpowered because he always wins. So what you do as a game designer, if I'm going to nerf anything, if I'm going to kill something, I'm going to be killing the most powerful character. When we create balance, we create counters to moves. So if you guys are doing something, you're doing it regularly and always winning with it, as a game developer, I log events. I log who wins. I log what you did to win. I look at those logs and go, okay, that action's too powerful, I'll nerf it. So lots and lots of playtesting. If I create weak skills, I need to make them powerful against something. I need to balance the skills so there are some powerful and some weak. If you reward the player, you want to reward ability. So I don't just reward randomness, I reward your ability to predict, I reward your skill. And unfortunately, beta testing, playtesting, 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 and recording what's going on. Now, more and more we've got good internet connections, so the actions you take are being logged. So one of the reasons you connect to servers is so we can log everything you do, so we work out where people are getting killed. Right? That's a heat map from Halo, and they used those in the beta testing system to work out where the choke points were in their maps. And they changed the maps so that both sides were balanced, so that where kills were occurring was at their designed locations. Right? So this heat map shows you where people were dying. And what they found is in some levels there was a death point too close to one base. So they actually, in Halo, they moved and they hated the name the man cannon, they moved the man cannon that threw people in slightly, so it put them in a different start location, so it balanced the map. This is about data logging, it's about recording a lot of play sessions. Chess, traditional games, Go, have had play testing over thousands of years. We can now record all the data over a few hundred years, few tens of years. Asymmetry happens in a lot of sports and a lot of games. And one way to do it is to create symmetry by forcing people to play home and away. Soccer is unbalanced. The team at home wins more often. So what you do is you make them play at home and make them play away. The game Thud from Terry Pratchett. How many people have heard of Thud? Sweet, okay, there are 4. So Thud has an odd mechanic, which is this home and away. The idea is that there are dwarves and trolls, and you have to play both. Because the game is so unbalanced, and Terry Pratchett's not a game designer, so he didn't really know how to balance a game. So what he said is, well, hey, screw it, it's unbalanced. I'll make you play as trolls first, and you'll win by 20 points. And then the other person will play as trolls, and they'll win by 15 points. And the person who won the most wins. So my 20 beats your 15. That's a simple way of creating symmetry in an asymmetric game. Now, this way of doing balance is different to the nerfing. You've all experienced nerfing. Who's never experienced nerfing in a game? Okay, good. You know the term. Nerfing is where you take the analysis you've made of your playtesting sessions and you pick the one that does the most damage or the person that's unbalanced and you decrease all of their skills. One of the big problems in World of Warcraft, they'll add a character class and then suddenly everything's out of alignment. Everything's unbalanced again. So they have to go around nerfing different skills and nerfing different interactions. And that really pisses people off. Right? You take away their weapon, that they've spent a long time building up, and you just overnight destroy it, you break that contract. You break the contract between me as a designer, me as a developer, and you as the player. That's why you get pissed off. It's not actually you get pissed off at the new game. The new game is better. It's more balanced. It's more fair. But it's that I've broken that contract, that when you work hard for something, I will reward you. Complexity is hard to balance. So we're going to have to nerf things. Emergent behaviors are something, another interesting area is how complex behavior emerges from simple interactions. Unfortunately, that's also where dominant strategies come from and where unbalanced games come from, is complex emergent interactions. We can't balance them. They're really hard. You have to play test a lot. One way is to try and simplify things by removing unnecessary mechanics, removing unnecessary possibilities. Don't give the player so many different options. If you can power up everything in the world and you can power them up in different ways and you can combine them in different ways, you get the Modern Warfare 2 knife powered up so that I can run around and kill people with bazookas, right? It's a bit silly, but the power-up system allows the knife to become overpowered. And Magic the Gathering has far too many cards, far too many options. And they actually say they're intentionally bad cards. Magic the Gathering is intentionally unbalanced. So, what can you do? Well, there's two parts to people who are players playing with balance. One is, I want to win. I don't care about the game. I don't care about it being balanced. I want to win. If you want to win, then you try and exploit the unbalanced system. You look for unusual combinations because the unusual combinations haven't been play tested. So as a player, if your sole goal is to win, hunt down the unusual connections. Hunt down ways of exploiting the starting position, exploiting unusual combinations of where I start with what weapons I have, what character they do. You run crazily off in one direction which you would never do, and you find something different. You find a different attack location. You try and create the asymmetry that the game designer has been trying to avoid. Right? So as a player, if you just want to win, you want to defeat balance. If you are a player who wants to feel victory by being better at the game than someone else, rather than just having found the cheat, then you do things like create house rules. House rules are the standard way of saying, hey, okay, well, we understand that that particular card is overbalanced, so we won't use it, right? Magic the Gathering, there are lists of cards you're just not allowed to use because they're going to screw the game. In D&D, lots of house rules. We also have handicapping systems. Right? When I play my nephews in chess, I'm not just there to screw them over. What I'll do is I'll create balance in my own skill by removing some of my pieces. So as a player, I strive for balance so that when I win, I know that I've been skillful, that I've had that link between winning and reward by my choices. And player matchmaking. Now, that was a fairly quick talk, hopefully, to try and get us back on schedule. If you've got questions about player balance and you want to talk more about rock, paper, scissors and the balance system, I'm going to be down here. I'm going to be giving a talk about augmented reality in half an hour or so after we've got the next guy through. And one of the things I want you to think about is when you play games, when you are looking at a game and trying to find out whether it's balanced or not, think about your choices you're making, think about how your choices relate to your victory, and how the game designer tried to create balance so that you as a player felt that connection between your actions and your victory. Thank you.